Hello, welcome to the Middle Kingdom. My name is Adam. In today's video, I'm going to take a little walk alongside the Nanjing Olympic Stadium, and I'm going to show you some footage from my trip home to England after being stuck in China for 3.5 years. So I'm going to talk a little bit about why I didn't leave China to visit home for such a long time. I'm going to share a few of my experiences on arriving back home, what it felt like to be back home in England again. Also going to show you a little bit of the beautiful countryside in England, and we're going to see a few other pretty interesting things as well. The journey from Hangzhou in China to Amsterdam took about 19 hours, which was a really long time to be sat on the plane. We did stop off in Korea briefly, but we didn't have a chance to get off, just for changing crew and to refuel the aircraft. Even though this journey was long, it was nothing compared to the 3.5 years I'd been waiting for this moment to be able to see my family and visit home again. You might be wondering why I didn't return home for such a long time. Well, usually I would visit home once or twice a year, but when COVID hit, things in China shut down really quickly, and there was no opportunity to return home. I never believed that I would be away from home for such a long time, and even though it was 3.5 years, it didn't really feel like I was waiting for such a long time, because we never knew when restrictions would ease on COVID in China and we may be able to visit home again. So I was always just thinking ahead to the next holiday, 6 months ahead, whenever that may be. Sometimes the things we love and the opportunities that we have in life are split between two different places, and in this case, if I would have attempted to leave China during the COVID times, returning would have been almost impossible, and it would have mean giving up a lot of things here in China that are very important to me. So unfortunately I had to make the decision to stay here and just hope that I would be able to return home and see my family sooner rather than later. In December, when COVID restrictions were suddenly eased here, it was a big relief to know that it would be possible to travel home again soon. But suddenly everyone got sick at the same time, and things were a little bit chaotic for a few weeks in December. And then in January, a kitten I rescued got sick, and I was nursing Snowflake the kitten for a few weeks at home, trying to get him healthy, but unfortunately he died. So after he passed away, I took the opportunity to book a flight back home, and it felt It felt really exciting, a real big relief to be able to go home again and see everybody after such a long wait. It felt really amazing to be home. One of the best feelings I've had for a long time. And yeah, on the drive back from the airport to my house, one of the first things I noticed was just how small the houses in England are. I live in a big Chinese city where almost everyone lives in big apartment blocks, so all the buildings you see every day are absolutely massive. Then I go home and I live in the suburbs of Manchester, outside of the city, and all of the houses looks like dolls' houses. All of a sudden it's really a strange feeling. Everything was so much smaller. I'm just not used to seeing houses that are so small. So that was one of the first things that stood out to me. Secondly, on my first night back home, I woke up in the night at about 2 a.m. and opened the curtains to take a look outside, and the darkness was so black. Middle of winter in England, it's so dark at nighttime. It's amazing. It was really amazing to see the pure darkness, no light pollution at all, just pitch black. The first morning back, I took a walk through my village and the roads were full of cars, people going to work, but it felt so quiet, even though it was the rush hour for England, and it used to feel so busy, sitting there in the car or walking along the street when it was the rush hour. But compared to China, it just felt like it was almost peaceful. There are no e-bikes flying past you on the bike lanes in all different directions, and all sorts of different vehicles like there are here in China. There are just so many people in big Chinese cities and so many things going on all the time that to come home into the suburbs of a British city was really different, and it felt really quite relaxing to be somewhere that is so quiet. I don't spend a lot of time in the Chinese countryside. Most of my time is spent here in the city of Nanjing, but yeah, to go and see the countryside in England again was really amazing. The British countryside is so different from the countryside here in China. All sorts of different plants growing, different trees, and there's just a completely different feeling about the British countryside. Also, the silence is really, really quiet and peaceful, and there aren't many people around at all. But one big difference that you'll notice in England is when you come across people, everyone will say hello to you. Outside of the big cities, anywhere you go, people will start up a conversation or say hello, and it is almost seems unusual if you don't greet somebody walking past you. When I first came to China, one of the big things I noticed was just how often people would be staring at me. Chinese people are very curious when they see a foreigner because unlike in England where the country is very multicultural, we have all different races and people from all over the world living there. So in England it isn't unusual to see all different kinds of people every day, whereas in China often Chinese people haven't seen a foreigner before, especially if you go outside of the bigger cities, so they are always very curious to see you. After a few years living here, you kind of get used to it and you don't even notice people staring at you, even though it is happening here a lot. So being back home again, I didn't stand out so much and nobody was staring at me in the same way. Also, because my Chinese isn't so good, when I'm going around in everyday life here in China, I can't really understand what people are saying in their conversations. I pick up a little bit here and there that I understand, but yeah, most of it I just tune out and it's a little bit like background noise. While being back in England again, I could hear all the conversations where people were having, and it was kind of interesting to hear the everyday chit chat. Stile Woods is one of my favourite places to visit nearby to where I live in England. This woodland is a really beautiful place. They have some amazing old cottages here as well with the thatched roofs, and it's right alongside Manchester Airport, but most of the time, apart from hearing the aircraft, you would have no idea that the airport is nearby. It really feels like that you are in the middle of nowhere. I used to come to Stile Woods a lot to go for a run, and also cycle around this area was a lot of fun too. There's quite an interesting history about this place. There's a big old mill here, and it played an important role in the Industrial Revolution as well. So in the subtitles, I'm going to tell you a little bit about this place while we watch some of the footage. In the next clips, you're going to see Alderley Edge, a really beautiful woodland in the British countryside. This place is pretty mysterious as well and has a few interesting stories that I'm going to tell you about as well while you're watching the next clips. We're going to be exploring some ancient woodland known as Alderley Edge. So this place is just south of Manchester, which is my hometown, and as a child I always used to come to this place, and we just went out, I was exploring this woodland, looking through the caves, climbing trees, and it's just a really amazing forest to come and take a look at. Also, there's a lot of history behind this place. It was actually the first place in England to start mining metals, This was almost 4,000 years ago in the Bronze Age. So yeah, it's a pretty interesting place. There's a lot of old mine shafts here. Left England 3.5 years ago, there were no electric cars around at all. Maybe a few hybrid cars now and then, but yeah, this time I noticed that there were more electric vehicles in car parks than before. Still pretty few, but they had some charging stations, and yeah, it was cool to see that electric vehicles were starting to increase in numbers a little bit in the UK. Here in China already there are a hell of a lot of electric vehicles, and the infrastructure for charging electric vehicles here is really impressive, and I think it's way easier to own an electric vehicle in China than it is in the UK at the moment. The condition of the roads in England is absolutely terrible as well. I'm sure some of the potholes that were there in the roads where I live were still there from 3.5 years ago when I last visited. So yeah, it's pretty sad to see the disrepair in the roads, and some of the shops and communities in England look much more outdated than the big modern Chinese city that I'm currently living in. But the countryside roads in England are really windy and fun to drive on, so I wish the road condition there was a little bit better and that I could bring my electric car from here in China to England, because it would be a lot of fun to drive around in it in the British countryside.
good guy, but all these feelings inside been taking me for a ride. I need somewhere to hide. I've been talking to God. I need someone to guide. Oh well, fuck it, I tried. A lot of shit on my mind. I've been thinking of time, cause I've been taking my time. Just trying to sit in the wine, trying to sip on some wine. Falling out of line, feeling like I'm running out of time. Every day the same shit because I'm looking for a sign. Instead of chasing it, the good or the bad, I'm embracing it. If you make it bad, yeah, then you gotta lay in it. Reality, I'm facing it. Success, I want a taste of it. My talent, never wasting it. The top is where we taking it. However long it take for us, cause we ain't never giving up. Enduring it, you live it up. Open the door and then you give it up. Let it simmer, dim the light and let it glimmer. Lord, I know I've been a sinner, but in all I'm still a winner. We've been working through the winter, yeah. We've been working through the winter, yeah. Yeah. Breadwinners eating Sunday dinner by my grandmoms. Gotta spend time with the fam when you have time. And I just wanna thank God, cause he done a great job in molding me to be a better man, just for mankind.
We was young and dumb, but that feeling never faded. Knew that you was the one, that's why I never downgraded. Depression caught up to me and it made me isolated. The only one I was ever comfortable around naked. It was times I messed with other girls and had to fake it. Even through all the BS, you told me that I would make it. Gave me your heart and told me take it, but never forsake it. You cut up my jersey, but I deserve it if I'm not mistaken. I wouldn't trade it all cause of the memories we created. So happy I was at BSU when you graduated. All the time that was wasted, you on my mind, I'm wasted. Pick up the phone, let it ring once and hang up aggravated. Cause I was in a situation that made me deflated. And I kept thinking about you like
Difficult to describe how special it felt to return home and see everybody after such a long time. But yeah, with jet lag and falling asleep early most days, it felt like the 10 to 8 days or so that I was at home went really, really quickly, and it was suddenly time to come back to China again. Leaving home is always a teary experience, and it is always challenging no matter how many times you leave home. Every time you leave it feels like a really difficult time until you get on the journey and then you're involved in traveling and you can kind of relax a little bit more, but it's always difficult. Tini always gives me the best welcome home, especially when I've been away for a long time. She gets really excited, so it's always nice to open the door and have her there jumping up on you. Alright, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video. Please remember to subscribe and leave a comment below. Let me know what you thought of the places that I visited in England and the experience on my journey home.